that may make this recessionary issue a little bit softer. We still have a lot of monetary supply. I'm actually writing an article on this coming up Friday. Is that if you take a look at M2 as a percentage of GDP, it is extremely elevated. And that's because of all that money we sunk into the economy back in 2021, 2022, the Inflation Reduction Act, the CHIPS Act. There's so much money sitting out there that's helping support some of this economic growth. And that's why we keep seeing these numbers like, consumer spending is holding up, retail sales are holding up, and that's going to potentially soften that cushion. Or we're still going to get a recession, but it may not be in 2024. It may be in 2025. It may be just longer to get there because of all that money. I think it's very important you pay attention to what's going on with yield curves. They always predict a recession, 100% accuracy. And I doubt this time is different, but it's always going to be the timing that's going to be important.
Speaking of timing, so everyone's sort of fixated on the pivot, right? Next year it's coming. There's no doubt about that. When it comes, we'll see. But you also said bonds over stocks recently. The pivots, the history of pivots really proves that maybe you're right. This is the S&P 500 versus the 10-year bond yield. So you can see every time the Fed kind of pivots and rates go lower, so does the stock market versus the bond market. Rates lower, stock market versus the bond market. It's just rates go lower, stock market down a little bit. It's happened time and time again. Is there a sense, though, that this time can be different, or is this one of the reasons why you've been sort of leaning more bonds than stocks lately?
No, I still like bonds better than stocks next year. But look, let's even be something. Let's be a little bit more just kind of generic for next year. You take a look at Goldman Sachs or J.P. Morgan, et cetera. Their estimates for next year is that the market's going to get to 4,800 to 5,000, somewhere in there. That's about a 6% return from where we are now. If yields on bonds go from 4.5 to say 3.5 or even 3 to align with inflation next year, that's going to be about a 20% upside for bonds. So just the math right now says that bonds are a better bet than stocks for 2024. Doesn't mean you're going to have a negative return in stocks.
Sure.
I wouldn't recommend being all in bonds versus stocks. That's when we run a balanced portfolio of both. I think you're going to have I think potentially you get a return if we avoid a recession and the Fed cuts rates. That's a long shot, but that could be upside for stocks. But bonds will do better in that environment.
Lance.